Welcome everyone to our workshop. As I was just mentioning before we got started just a second ago, Julio, our marketing coordinator here at Splash Media U, is recording our workshop today. Just to give you a little introduction to both of us. I'm Duncan Gill, Dean of Students. I just mentioned Julio Lebron, our marketing coordinator, also online with us to help moderate our workshop today. And Julio is recording it so that we can review it after the fact. If you didn't get a chance, obviously the people who I'm talking to, you're here with us now. But if you know anyone who might benefit from this workshop and the material we're covering today about taking your clients or customers on a journey, this will be posted on our Facebook and YouTube pages, both at Splash Media U. So facebook.com/SplashMediaU and youtube.com/SplashMediaU. Again, the topic I wanted to cover today is how to take customers on a journey. A big part of social media is storytelling. It's really the essence of what social media is about, is telling the story and grabbing your customers. And the best stories are a combination of several. They kind of meet several requirements, one or at least two of these. The best stories are authentic, they're relevant, and they are emotional. And an easy way to remember them, if you just say the best stories are, and you spell R-A-R-E, those are the letters that these characteristics start with. Authentic, A; relevant, R; emotional, E. And I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Authentic, meaning if there is a human element, if there's I like to think of authentic as being almost accidental. It doesn't have to be, and not that we should make our content accidents, but there is a huge level of authenticity when something seems spur of the moment, or it almost seems accidental, or it seems casual. These are not synonyms for authentic. These are just ways of describing how to achieve that authenticity in your posts and in your content. And as I mentioned, I'm going to interrupt myself just for 1 second. As I mentioned just before we started, we have some poll questions coming up in the second half. But between now and then, feel free to respond in the comment box. We'd love to hear your take on how you're telling stories with your clients and customers and taking them on a journey. So again, the best stories have actually two or more of these elements because there's actually a lot of overlap. I think you'll find that there is an element of authenticity when you bring in emotions. And if you can make things authentic, they will also be relevant. I mean, there's a lot of overlapping between these three elements. And I'll give you an example of each, and you'll see how they overlap. Let's go into an example here of what I'm talking about. So the best stories are authentic. This is a story that the service MailChimp has used over the last 37 weeks or so. They've actually continued further beyond their original weekly email. So they're more than 37. But originally, they started off with a series of stories walking a potential client or customer of theirs, whoever might be on their email list, walking them through the process of setting up a store. So here was the problem that MailChimp was facing. MailChimp, if you don't know, is an email marketing service. And they're not related to our workshop at all, but I have used them myself. It's how I found the story. And they offer these great templates for creating your email marketing campaigns. But what they found was they didn't really know what their average customer was going through when it came to setting up a store, setting up a brand. And so what they did is actually one of their marketing associates went through the process of actually setting up a store, created a store to sell different items just for the sake of documenting that for MailChimp customers and MailChimp clients. You can read more about it. The source is up there at the top, mailchimp.com/what's-in-store. What's in Store was the name of this email series. And what made it authentic, the reason I put it in this particular category, was that everything was done from the point of view and written by the marketing associate, Meg Lindsay, from MailChimp. And she included mistakes. She included blunders. She included the lessons she learned. It was basically, I mean, she crafted these emails a week or two in advance just to make sure she had content for the next few weeks. But everything seemed very authentic because she was very open about the mistakes she was making. And it's funny, there was even a moment when she answered a question in one of the emails. She said she was getting this particular question over and over again. Are you just making these mistakes so that you have content for these emails? She said, no, I wish. She was very transparent about the entire process from beginning to end. Um, and I highly recommend you go back. You can go back to that website and see all of the emails from that whole series and how they set up the store. The proceeds went to charity. It's a really cool story walking customers through the process of setting up a brand, through naming the brand, coming up with a store. What are the issues with e-commerce? What are the issues with shipping? And in the end, as I'm guessing you can imagine, it wasn't really about the process of setting up a store. The lesson, the overarching lesson, was the lesson of telling a story through emails, because that's exactly what Meg did in the end. And since then, they've kept the email going, and it is now turned into customer stories. So they take MailChimp clients, they go to their store, to their site, wherever they're based, and interview them, do little videos with them, and tell their story through these emails. So it's a great little um, arch of a arch. It's a great little arc. Could be an arch too. It's a great arc of a storytelling to see from beginning to end how this is set up. But again, the overarching, maybe that's what I was going for, the overarching story of how to tell stories through email is the one to pay attention to. When it comes to relevancy, being relevant, there are several ways you can go. You can talk about something that's universal, maybe a holiday, stage of life. You can also talk about the news. You can talk about something that's current and happening now. I don't know if you want to tap into politics. That may be a little more controversy than you want to go into, but you can certainly do current events that are either focused in your particular geographic area, maybe related to a sports team in your area, community events, or on a national or even global scale. And this is an example of that, of being relevant in your storytelling. And you may recall toward the end of last year, maybe Julio can remind me of the month, but one of our great American composers, Leonard Cohen, passed away back in 2016. And there was a lot of news about that, a lot of sharing of his popular songs. And one of those that got out there quite a bit was this video. This is actually from Facebook, a video of an a cappella chorus in Dallas, Texas, that just happened to have the song Hallelujah already in their repertoire. So they just casually thought one rehearsal, they rehearse every week, and one rehearsal right after Leonard Cohen's death, they thought, well, why don't we just do a little Facebook Live and send this out to our fans? And certainly not expecting it to go viral, although that's what it did. And I think there's a level. So this is, okay, I'm going to have to back up a little, because this is where our ARE, authentic, relevant, emotional, this is where they start to overlap. Because the focus here is relevance. This is something that the world is processing, being a great composer and singer-songwriter, but it also had this level of authenticity, because this was just someone in the audience there, or one of their members, had a cell phone, held it up, recorded on Facebook Live. It was spur of the moment. They had not planned, certainly not planned to go viral, but even more so not planned to do this because, of course, no one knew that Leonard Cohen was going to pass away. And today, since that time, since I think it was last fall or last winter when they recorded this, it's had over 8 million. Oh, thank you, Julio. It was mentioned in the chat room. It was in November. So since November, when they recorded this, that video on Facebook has had over 8 million views. And even the views are very impressive. I think it's even more impressive the number of shares. Almost 200, maybe by now, 200,000 shares of this, that people were so moved by this. And so this is another example where everything overlaps. A little bit of that emotion creeping in, the emotion factor here, but almost 200,000 shares. This particular ensemble does have CDs for sale. Those sales went up 50%. They actually, because the song was already on one of these CDs, that particular CD that already had the arrangement of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah on it, sales of that CD went up 50%. Website traffic was up 400%, and their Facebook page likes, super impressive. Again, this is not what they were going for. They were not going for page likes. They were just going to spread this beautiful song. But as a result, this is something that actually came up as a topic, something we were talking about before we started in our trivia portion. The result of that was an increase in page likes. Page likes went up 3 times from about 6,300 to 24,000. Not what they were going for, but that was a result. They got media coverage. A bunch of news outlets in Dallas covered it. And one of the coolest things was they were invited to audition for America's Got Talent. I don't know when that date is. This is all from. If you want to take a look at the whole story, I definitely recommend it from the person who manages their marketing, Gary Hennerberg. Check out his website, and you can see the full story and about the audition for America's Got Talent there too. Hennerberg.com. It's on his blog where he talks about it. So this is the essence of capturing relevance. This is the essence of being ready to tell a story when the story unfolds. This is not necessarily a story from this ensemble. This is a story that was just unfolding in the news, in the world, and they were ready to step in and take advantage of it. Very important to keep in mind, and a great example of how all of these three things, the authentic nature, the relevant nature, and the emotional nature overlap. Let's take a look at specifically emotion now. One of my favorite viral videos, I'm guessing you've probably seen this one since there have been over 47 million views on YouTube, is the WestJet Christmas videos. WestJet, the Canadian airline, back in 2013, filmed a video to get the Christmas spirit up and show and give back a little bit to their customer base. They created this wonderful video where they did sort of a Secret Santa program where some of their flyers came in, their travelers, passengers came in to one of the airports, and there was a little kiosk where they could tell Santa what they wanted for Christmas, and then waiting for them at their destination were all of these gifts. It's very emotional. I mean, man, it's almost getting me just describing in that little bit the emotion that's involved here. You see all of their wishes come true. It's a wonderful, not only way for WestJet to give back, but also for them to keep this legacy of giving back going. Because one of my favorite posts from their blog, you can go back to their blog, blog.westjet.com/Christmas Miracle, and check this out. One of my favorite parts of when they initially posted this was one little line in there that says, I think it was like 200,000. Our goal is to get to 200,000 views. Hope you'll help us get there, and we'll give another award for, we'll give back to a family, a nominated family if we get to 200,000 views. Well, they got to 47 million views today and counting, so an easy milestone to pass. And again, here's that level of authenticity. Now, this was a highly produced video. Lots of cameras going. A lot went into making this video. But that little spark of authenticity makes all the difference. Whether or not, however long it took to plan this, it may not have been spontaneous necessarily, but that little spark of authenticity that they weren't expecting to get 47 million views. I'm not sure anybody really is. They were hoping to get 200,000. That little spark of authenticity really makes all the difference, at least to me, when I see videos like this, that they're really just trying to create something valuable, something entertaining, something emotional. Emotional is not always sad or sweet or bittersweet or tugging on the heartstrings. It could be funny. It could be entertaining. So you could think of that E in ARE, authentic, relevant, emotional, also as being entertaining, because that's also has a very strong emotional appeal. And a lot of the storytelling content that works well is funny. Now, not everybody can pull off funny. It's often easier, even if you don't have the resources to come up with a WestJet style video like this, which they continue to do now every Christmas and beyond. Even if you don't have those resources, doing something that's got some emotion to it is actually not that difficult to do. And again, there's a lot of overlap here. The video from the a cappella ensemble in Dallas on a phone. That was done spur of the moment on a phone. So there's a wide range of um, the what's the word I'm looking for? The um, the production value. There's a wide range of production value here. The production value is not as important as those three key elements. How authentic is it? How relevant is it to my life, to what's going on in the world? And how emotional is it? How entertaining? How does it grab me as an audience member? So now we're actually going to grab you a little bit. We're going to reach out and get your opinion, and talk a little bit about how you can tell stories yourself in your social media content. So the first poll question, and again, I'd love to discuss these openly with you on the chat window right here in join.me. If you want to participate in Twitter, on Twitter or Facebook, love for you to use the hashtag slash workshop. What is the problem your customers are trying to solve? This is the number one question you must ask. And feel free, of course, to also treat this as a rhetorical question, something to think about as you go forward beyond this workshop. What is the problem your customers are trying to solve? There is an issue out there, and your product, your service answers it. Your product or service is a solution to that problem. So what is the problem? I think we all need to take a step back and realize customers are coming to us from a variety of places. And some of the problems may be similar, some of them may be a little bit different, but what is that common thread you see customers are trying to solve? So feel free to answer it in the chat window here. Feel free to just take this with you and think about this as you create the stories that are going to bring in and attract your current and future customers. But the big takeaway here, there is a narrative behind every journey, behind every customer that comes to you. There is a story there. So how does it go? How does that story go? How can you tell it? How can you use their story and tell it yourself in your content to other customers, in your blog, as a video? Um, and I think there are a couple of ways to take advantage of this. There is taking the average story, the commonality, throughout a good portion of your customer base. What issues are you seeing, and can you summarize that and make that a story? Or take each individual one. Go ahead and ask, and we have this question coming up in a second, but ask your customers what their journey was. What problem led them to you? I think that's important to think about. One of our viewers, thank you, name just listed as viewer 15. The issue is driving web traffic to their brick and mortar store. Um, Absolutely. So that's a client of yours, a social media client, sounds like an online marketing client. How the problem is, how do we get traffic? How do we get foot traffic? How do we get foot traffic? If you specialize in retail clients, that's probably a very common problem they're having. We want foot traffic. The social media stuff is great, but the issue we're trying to solve is getting more foot traffic. So maybe you could structure a campaign around that somehow, around what's happening at the store. Tell this sounds weird to say, but tell the story of the store. You could go any direction with this. What's the story of the building where they are? What the part of town? Tell the story of the part of town. The individual employees that work at the store. That's the front line of sales there and marketing. The people who customers see when they walk in. What's their story? So a lot of different ways to approach storytelling when the goal is foot traffic. We have another response here. Finding. I'll go in order here. Julio had another answer from social media. How to effectively learn how to market via social media. Yeah, it could be similar there to the foot traffic one, but I think it's maybe you tell the story through some case studies, through education. It's a great way to go. If you have an active blog, or you could start an active blog, it's a great way to tell those stories about social media that's worked in the past. Just a couple of ideas to get the ball rolling here. And finally, we'll take one more answer here. Finding safe and tasty food products for allergies. Oh, that's a great one. Some of these obviously are going to be easier than others, especially if you have clients that are a very natural fit for some social media platforms. But these are great. These are great here. And storytelling is easy when health is a concern, I think, and food is a concern. A lot of things can be visually appealing. You can tell stories through images. A lot of directions you could go there. Question number two, poll question number two. think about the reactions and interactions you get. Where are they coming from? And I would encourage you to think beyond social media, beyond comments, beyond shares, and even consider things like email. Now, you may not get a lot of replies to your email marketing, or maybe you do, but what you may see as a result of your email marketing is sales. You may see either a conversion in the form of a sale, a conversion in the form of a form fill. So where are you getting all of those interactions currently? Maybe you're getting phone calls. I think the takeaway here is to consider using your strongest medium. And I'm not necessarily talking about the platform itself. I'm not necessarily saying if you have thousands and thousands of Facebook page likes, that Facebook is your medium. Not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is take what your customers respond to in its format and go after that for your storytelling format. For example, if videos reach the most customers, the most prospects, the most leads, if videos have the biggest reach for you, use video as your storytelling medium. If the written word gets out there, just because, and this may be somewhat platform based, maybe you have a separate blog, maybe you do, by nature of what you do, have a large a volume of website traffic, use the written word. Use a podcast if you think your audience is listening to podcasts. There's a certain demographic that skews more toward favors podcasts. There's a certain demographic that responds best to certain imagery. If you think imagery is the best way to get out there and where you currently get the most feedback, focus on that for the medium. The platform is a little bit flexible. So, for example, if your audience happens to respond very well to images and photos, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, of course, to a certain extent, those could be the platforms where you create these stories using that medium, using photos, using videos for YouTube, for Facebook. We saw two examples of that with our acapella group and with the WestJet example. So use the strongest medium and craft your stories based on how your audience is responding. If you don't know your strongest medium, you might experiment a little bit. If you don't know it because you're just getting started out, or if you're talking about social media for a client and they're just building their community everywhere. So in other words, they don't have a strong Facebook following, a large community of Twitter followers, of YouTube subscribers, of email subscribers. This is a perfect opportunity for you to experiment and try a couple of different things and see what works the best. Right now, especially if your emphasis is Facebook, live Facebook video is a great medium for getting the message out, and especially for storytelling, because it's very easy, at least with the first two of our pillars of storytelling, authenticity and relevance, very easy to capture both of those with a Facebook Live or a Twitter Live video from Periscope. But live video works very well in getting those two angles, the having someone just holding a phone and recording video, and the relevance, the timeliness of I'm live at this event, it's super relevant to my customers. So that's the bottom line here. The final question is, do you ask your customers how they feel about you? I think it's very important to consider all the ways you can tell the customer stories, and one way to get those stories is to ask them for them. I think this is something that we kind of forget about because we're always on to where's the next customer, where I want to get prospects, I want to get leads, on to the next customer. And we completely, this is also something that came up coincidentally in our trivia session right before the workshop, is we must bring the focus back to our current customers. They're the ones who, if they're happy about this service they received, spread the word to their friends. The focus must be on our current customers, and ask them. If you don't know how they feel about you, ask them. Put out a survey. Ask them in a Facebook post. What was your favorite part about service from us? What do you think we could improve? There are so many ways that you can reach out to your customers and get feedback, and then use those to tell stories, tie it right back in to question one that we were talking about. What is the problem your customers are trying to solve, or your clients are trying to solve? So get their feedback and use that to talk about the problems. Use that feedback to talk about and address the problems that your customers are seeing, and that will improve your products and services. That will make what you offer better because you are now aware of the issues customers are coming to you with, and then the issues that they're facing once they're already a customer. What they're happy with, what you can improve on. So I'd love to hear back from you if you have a second, want to chat this in. What format do you use for asking for customer feedback? Do you have the Yelp logo on your door if you or on your client's door if you represent social media marketing clients on the retail level, and that sounded like that was the case for our brick and mortar example. Do you have the Yelp or TripAdvisor logo somewhere visible? Do you actually send out a survey? Do you call? Oh my goodness, the concept of a phone in this day and age of social media. Do you actually pick up the phone and call customers? I would encourage you, put this on your calendar. Every week, call one customer. Every week, email one customer and find out, are they happy? Are they satisfied? Um, what can you do better as a company? That's just the basics of doing service with your clients, with prospects. Just that level of attention to your current clients will go so far in how they talk about you online and to their friends, and spread that word of mouth. Takeaway here is, let the customers tell their stories and use those stories. Of course, ask their permission if you're going to use it literally, but let your customers tell their stories. That is a big part of storytelling for you, is the customer journey, the customer story. And I sort of broke this down into four stages. There's that when your client or customer has some sort of a change, some sort of a catalyst. There's a spark. There's a realization that I'm going to have to make this change. There's the conflict of how, what, I don't have the solution currently. I must find the solution. So there's discovery of the solution, and then there's the solution itself. So anytime you see this progression, this makes a great story. The spark, there's what changed, what was that initial spark, what was the catalyst, something changed, then that led to what issue, what problem do I need to solve? How do I search for and find that problem? And then what was the solution that you, the brand, was able to offer? That is the essence of a story. It's those. Sometimes it's divided into 3 steps. Sometimes it's divided into 5 or 7 steps. But basically, in my example 4 here, that is the essence of the entire story, beginning, middle, and end. And I think there's a great opportunity that a lot of us are missing to let our customers be the storytellers and give them a format to do so. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that these takeaways were helpful, and these examples you'll take a look at. Remember, take a look. We'll post this video after the fact. Go back to the sources of those examples to read more about the MailChimp example, which I still follow. It still comes in my email box. The acapella group, and WestJet, of course. Gosh, talk about emotion, especially around the holidays. I mean, I keep coming back to that, but there's already emotion in the relevance of the holiday. So the overlap there is just the perfect um, set of ingredients for that video to do well, because there's already emotion built into Christmas, and they're just taking that to the next level. One of our viewers, let's see, so thank you, Julio was reminding me that we've got a little bit more about Splash Media U. If you just follow that link, he made that link clickable, little hyperlink there. You can learn more about us, Splash Media U, social media training program. I think this may be an answer to one of our last questions here. I work for a nonprofit. My customers are seeking a service rather than a product. Yeah, so the storytelling absolutely still applies. So what is the problem that those that the customers are trying to solve? What is the problem that the service is the answer to? I hope I'm addressing that right. As just as an example, I tried to pull examples from a variety of industries, variety of sizes. That acapella group is a nonprofit, so that was my nonprofit example. WestJet, of course, airline, large company. The MailChimp service, software as a service, not a physical product. Can't get on a plane, but that's my software as a service example. Oh, so the answer was we can certainly take this offline if I can't come up with, if I'm not able to elaborate a lot here, but the service that the customers of the nonprofit are seeking is services for developmental disabilities. Um, so I would say get get current, and I don't know if you call them customers or clients, um, maybe you call them members or something, or whatever you call the customers, get their stories, interview them. I think that's the best way to approach it. Of course, as I mentioned just briefly, there are other ramifications when you actually use customer stories. You want to get the permission, of course, to use any sort of likeness of them. But I would interview the customers themselves, let them tell their stories, and you can do this in a variety of ways. You can just have a quick little smartphone video interview. And again, I think this goes back to our middle example. The authenticity is more important than the production value. So just a quick little interview on a phone that you could use for either a podcast or a quick video to put onto YouTube could be one way. And that's just one way to go. If you want to follow up, please tweet. I would encourage you. I'm talking to our viewer 22, and anybody who wants to follow up, please tweet to. You can tweet to me at Duncan Gilman, DUNCANGIL. And I'll put it in here. You can tweet to me. Thank you, Julio. And it would be funny if I respond back with yours. You can tweet to me at Duncan Gilman, and you can tweet to Julio. He's at Splash Media U, or Julio, if you want to put your personal one on there, that's fine too. Please feel free to follow up with us if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much for attending. Again, our workshop here, everything you saw will be posted as a video later this week on YouTube and on Facebook. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.